in looking at William Byron, because I know you brought up Hendrick Motorsports last week as kind of like a team to really watch this year. Byron really kind of got slept on this weekend and really just kind of went under the rug. I mean, he has really been raking up great finishes at these super speedways. I believe now 3 of the last 4 he's finished top 2 on super speedways. So breaking through for a 500, especially coming off of his 6-win season last year. I mean, just really impressive stuff for a driver who's 26 years old, who is now kind of rewriting or beginning to rewrite the legacy in that number 24 car, but also building his own, because William Byron has all of the makings of being a multi-time champion in the Cup Series. You take a look at the stable of Hendrick Motorsports with Kyle Larson, who is still Kyle Larson. You look at Chase Elliott, who won stage 1, was very good, showed a lot of great poise. And then Alex Bowman, who, like Byron, was just particularly quiet all day and comes through. And while a lot of people thought he won, maybe a lot of people still believe that he got shafted there at the end with the call that NASCAR made to throw that caution. Regardless, you have to be incredibly encouraged by what you saw out of these two guys, particularly Bowman and Elliott coming off of injury. But William Byron, man, I mean, does this race kind of cement himself as the top dog at Hendrick Motorsports over Kyle Larson, over Chase Elliott? Because the results he is putting together and how he is able to just find his way at the end. And I always point to the relationship with Rudy Fugle, probably the top 1-2 pairing, crew chief to driver right now in the Cup Series. I mean, is Byron the guy at Hendrick now? Do you value him over a Kyle Larson at this point in time?
Yeah, he's the star of that team. I mean, he's the star of the sport, in a lot of people's eyes, including mine. When you're able to get to, like, it's such a numbers-based sport. I think every sport is, but like with NASCAR, we always look at loop data and all that, and you can see how people perform in the middle of the race. We just talked about stages, and it's not always just about the finishing. But when you're able to get the finishes, that trumps every other stat. Like, it's always about what did you do last week? And for Byron, he's coming off a championship 4 performance, half a dozen race wins. He doesn't really get – we never see him get too high or low, right? Like, I was really interested to see how he handled this win. And we saw him get out of the car and he's, slamming on the roof. Yes. And I'm like, what are we going to see from him here? And it was kind of right in the middle, as we expected. Definitely he was more jacked up than an average race win. He's up, he's got a lot of wins out of nowhere. It took him a while to win. And now he's, before we know it, he's a star and he's championship caliber. He's capable of winning basically any race, road courses, short tracks. You just mentioned his super speedway prowess that he's gained just overnight, it seems like. The 500 was never nice to him, but he's won Atlanta, Talladega, he's been up front. Now he's a 500 champion. And it's just, as soon as he won, I'm like, this is just an addition to a growing resume. When you think of big drivers who lead this sport, not all of them have Daytona 500s. And I think that's just something that he's always going to have. It's something that you're going to be called for the rest of your career. And just to get it so early is really, it's a big deal for someone like him. And I know Jeff Gordon, after the race, he was asked about the significance of Hendrick winning, not just 40 years to the day of their first race, not just on the 10-year anniversary of their last Daytona win, but it coming in the 24. Like, it wasn't Bowman in the 48 or Chase. Like, it was his car number that actually, that tied into all this. And, he said he just wants William to make it his own number. I love that response. Because I remember when, Chase Elliott took over that number. I covered that 2016 dual race, and he was on pole because he won the pole for the 500. And I was in his pit stop, and as soon as he came through the trioval the first time, it was like a wow moment because Jeff wasn't in it for the first time. And in 2018, William took it over, and he's coming off the Xfinity title, and he just had all this buildup, very similar to Joey Logano if you go back to about 2009. Taking over Tony Stewart's number 20, you're like, man, he should win loads of races right away. He killed it in Xfinity. Trucks were great, and it just didn't happen right away. 2018 was a tough year. only had 4 top 10s, nothing else, no top 5s, no wins. But every year since then, it was just a progression. And he finally won at Daytona, was his first win. Then he started getting his first multi-win season. He started winning, he won a lot of poles right away, started leading more laps and started making the playoffs, not just based on wins, like he had the consistency. And then last year finally clicked. And man, it just having this, he doesn't have to worry about having. You talked about Joey Logano last week, right? About someone coming off of, it wasn't a title for Byron, but coming off a really big year and maybe sinking down a level or two the following year. And maybe that might still happen with him. But I think when you start the year off this strong and you're going into a racetrack that you just won at last year, it can be the start of something tremendous. It can be the start of a William Byron era in NASCAR.
Yeah. Kind of watching him and Blaney in his own right, really kind of ascending to the top here with Blaney winning the championship last year. We could be really kind of like this next gen rivalry, this next gen kind of battle of these two drivers, could very much be brewing this year. We'll see how Blaney does, during the regular season this year. But nonetheless,
I will say quickly, Blaney did, besides Jimmy Johnson during driver intros, Blaney had the biggest roar of a crowd.
All right.
When they said his name, it erupted louder than anybody else. I will
love to hear that. And that's awesome, dude. Like that's what we've been waiting for, because and the Joey Logano reference there, I think is case in point. Just the trajectory and how quick it is for these drivers to really find success in the top level of the sport. It is difficult because you have so many drivers that are capable of winning now, especially with this next gen car, the parity that we've seen over the last couple of years. Like it is certainly watering down a little bit as the years go by, but still, like it's as high as ever, and it's a lot more difficult to finally get it. But once you get that monkey off your back, once you finally know how to put together a full race and truly get it done, I mean, the sky's the limit for these guys, and we're finally seeing the Byrons, the Blaneys, and a lot more really mold into their own. And finally, us as fans have really something to relate to, because a lot of these drivers are filling the shoes of the Hall of Famers that we all grew up, idolizing. So it really is great to see.